Well, hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers here today. I'm Fiona Langsharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Well, welcome to all of you joining us here today. You may see on your screen right now a very familiar face. Of course, we have Lyndsey Hookway, who is with us here today. And of course, we're going to be talking about our Infant Sleep Symposium at Gold Learning coming up very soon here. It's going to be live on June 17th, and Lyndsey will be here to answer all of your burning questions. So be sure to check out the website. So you can go to goldlearning.com. You can register right now, and we'll look forward to seeing you live on the day. If you can't make it for the live day, of course, you will be able to come back and listen to all the recordings as well. But don't miss out on all the fun and collaboration that we're going to be doing on that day. So welcome, Lyndsey. It's great to have you here today.
It's fun to be here. Thanks so much for having me back.
Well, we've had some fun today. We've been reviewing your presentation. Of course, we're very excited about it, talking about the ins and outs of what's going to be happening. Perhaps you want to update us, though, before we get into your topic at hand here and tell us a little bit about how things are going for you. Are you getting some practice in? How are our families out there in the sleep world?
Well, honestly, it's been just an insane time, actually. The last 2 or 3 months, so many families struggling with some really specific sleep-related and
Mm,
parenting issues. Lots of parents complaining about their kiddies just not going to sleep.
right.
They're perhaps not going to bed until 11 or midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's coming up a lot. And of course, kiddies are just feeding off of everybody's, anxieties and stresses and all of that. So it's definitely been very busy here in the UK. And from I've had lots of inquiries from people around the world who are struggling actually. So yeah, that's kind of how it's been rolling here.
It's very interesting when you're talking about it because, of course, did it take a pandemic for folks to realize that stress is associated with sleep issues? Because we've known that there's association all along, and families that are, there's some type of, not there's lack of coordination or consistency. I mean, this has played out. Anxiety plays into our children as adults, but has it given people pause for thought because we're in this different climate right now?
I don't know if it's given people like a new reason to think about sleep in that way. I think it has definitely been an acute problem during the
Mm,
pandemic. Um, I'm absolutely certain that stress is a factor in sleep a lot of the time and has
right.
been for, ever.
Mhm.
But it does seem to be a very specific clustering of um, uh, problems that seem to be creeping up for people. So it definitely seems to be really, really late bedtimes, and it's
Mm,
driving a lot of parents insane because, of course,
right.
if you've got your kids around all day, then adults need a bit of time to decompress, and of course that's kind of forcing the issue and
Mm,
kind of putting sleep into the spotlight. It's becoming a real pinch point for people. So yeah, maybe their sleep wasn't brilliant before or wasn't quite the way they wanted it, but certainly the lockdown has kind of kicked it into overdrive, shall we say.
yeah, I find this really interesting because thinking about it, is it that that folks have actually reached out more? That's kind of what I'm asking as well. Is that have there been even more connection? Have people demanded, I need more answers? Have they reached out more frequently than they would have done if there hadn't been sort of this sort of
Mm.
pandemic happening? So do you think that some folks who never would have maybe reached out, in fact, did reach out to you?
I think possibly. I think one of the things that's happening is that, online support wasn't perhaps something that people thought was a thing. And now,
Mm,
because it's the only thing, they
right.
suddenly realize, well, actually, maybe there is something that I can access that is going to help me with this thing that's driven me crazy for 2.5 years or however long it's been. Honest, I'm speaking to so many parents of toddlers at the
Right.
moment, which is great because
Yeah.
um, some people might know that I particularly love toddlers and preschoolers and their sleep issues. But I think the other thing is perhaps just that are people choosing to tackle sleep because it's kind of a captive time perhaps, and
Mhm.
certainly a few people have reached out saying well, it seems like a great time to work on this because, my
Right.
partner's off and, we're furloughed or whatever it is. So
Mm,
that's definitely been a factor for some folks as well. So perhaps it's not necessarily that sleep's just gone belly up. Maybe it's just that they've suddenly got the opportunity perhaps to focus in, or
mhm,
perhaps sometimes people are just a bit more introspective
mm,
during this time where, perhaps they're not going out and doing their usual activities. So perhaps that's a factor as well. I don't know.
yeah.
But I definitely am I'm speaking to a lot of stressed people.
A lot of
So
stressed people, yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting
yeah.
to think about how it might be an introspective or almost, people have got more time to look at it. So, because I always find that when I'm talking to parents anytime, sleep is always especially as a lactation consultant, you go in for one problem and you actually find out there's several more behind. It's not, I
Yeah.
always say it's not just the latch, okay?
Yeah.
You go for the latch, but it's actually nothing to do with the latch. So, sleep, of course, being a big component of what, IBCLCs and lactation consultants are dealing with. But I often find that it's at the bottom of the list in terms of, there's a lot of complaining about it, but there's not a lot of actionable item behind it, and then if there is some type of action, often it's all over the place, or it's panic, or it's some
Mm.
type of really consistent training that doesn't ever give you the results that you really want. So it'll be interesting to see. We should be collecting data on this, actually. I was just thinking about we should
Yeah.
collect some data on this and see what actually
Yeah.
happens. It'd be really interesting to see how families are responding, and sort of what results we can get out of them. But I'm glad that you're there. And for folks who don't know, I mean, Lyndsey Hookway, you're really the guru when it comes to sleep and behavior. And of course, I know you love those toddlers. And actually, you've written the book on it, right? So we want folks to know about that as well. And Lyndsey, where can folks find you online?
So I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on all the usual social places. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn. Just come and find me. I'm very
That's
friendly.
right.
Um, I definitely don't like to be thought of as like the guru. I think there are a lot of people
One of
doing
them.
really, really excellent work in sleep. I think the more people that we have out there, talking sense and trying to hold infant mental health and attachment and responsive feeding, and also trying to give some support with sleep, the better. There is
Absolutely.
definitely we need so many more people just in that space, I think.
Well, I absolutely respect that, and I know you're very humble about what you know, what you do. But I think your passion and your care factor it speaks volumes. So if you've never met Lyndsey, you haven't seen her at one of our events before, this is your opportunity to come and sit down with Lyndsey and really dive deep. Now, let's talk about your presentation that we're going to be doing. So here we've got the title here on my screen. You can't sleep with your foot on the gas pedal, how to improve sleep by tapping into calm. So I love the title, Lyndsey. How did you come up with this one? You can't sleep with your foot on the gas pedal. How did you come up with this
Yeah.
one?
Well, because it's something that comes up for me all the time. A lot of parents get very stressed about sleep, and a lot of people are following rules, or they've heard
Mhm.
particular myths about sleep,
Right.
and it causes them stress, it causes their little ones stress. They're using kind of downloadable schedules or prescriptive wake times, or they're
Mhm.
trying to follow a routine. And
Right.
obviously this is happening a lot more during lockdown. Perhaps again,
Mm.
people are looking for an element of control in a situation
Right.
that is actually quite uncontrollable,
Mhm.
possibly. But I think people have always sought to try and control their little ones' sleep to some extent,
Right.
and what we know from research, and I certainly know from practice as well, is that that causes a lot of stress for everybody. And the point of the title is that sleep does not occur ideally in a stress state. So, I talk a lot with clients about, the need for a gas pedal. You need a stress response
Mhm.
to be able to get away from something that's genuinely difficult or stressful. But you also need to be able to calm down, and sleep occurs in that calm down state.
Right.
So, it's really about supporting parents to meet little ones' cues, understand that dysregulation is not a state from which children can calmly transition into sleep, but also
Right.
to understand that they don't have to micromanage sleep. They don't have
Mm,
to try and follow prescriptive routines or rules, or follow a schedule, anything like that, in order to make sleep more manageable. And what we also know is that if they do that, they're likely to just find that they get frustrated and disillusioned with it.
yeah. Okay. So what I hear you saying is, for this presentation for myself as a lactation consultant, you're going to give me some tools to tap into that are going to help my clients understand where that stop and starts, and what to watch for in those cues, to understand what happens in those, that dysregulation of behavior, and how to get back on track. Was that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I'm talking with a lot of families at the moment, and I'll share some of the things that I've been talking about, in terms of thinking about dysregulation cues rather than
Mm,
trying to constantly watch for when they should be putting their baby down to sleep, because so many parents get
interesting.
really, really stressed about exactly when they should be putting their baby down to sleep. Um,
Right.
and and when you overly focus on that, you can sometimes miss the fact that little ones might need to connect, they might be bored, they might be uncomfortable, they might have a
Mm,
scratchy label in their clothing or whatever it is. But
right.
actually, when you can support parents to
Mhm.
understand some of those dysregulated cues, you
Mhm.
actually improve attunement, you improve connection, and you also improve parental confidence, because they actually finally feel like they understand what their child is trying to
Right.
communicate with them.
Yeah.
And this is really pertinent for lactation consultants, because I don't know about you, but I often run into people who are feeding non-stop because they interpret, any kind of fussing as a hunger cue or a feeding cue, or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes it's not that at all. That they might need to burp. They might need to have a change of position. They might need a
Yeah.
diaper change, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But actually, when we can try and understand how to understand infants' communication better, we
Mhm.
generally will read them better, and then they generally will um, sleep better, because we understand when they are actually cueing for sleep
Mhm.
rather than something else.
Yeah. No, that's going to be really good because I think, there is an element, even though I try to cover some of those things when I'm talking to families, but, there is always that sort of taking it for granted that because it
Mm,
comes naturally, say, if you've been working in the business a long time or all those things, you sometimes forget to actually translate that into language that's supportive of someone that has never thought about it or doesn't understand it. And building that confidence for me in a parent is a number one priority, because we know
yeah.
that the more confident they are, the more they actually hear us to start with. So teaching becomes easier, and the more
Mm.
open they are to understanding themselves, their babies, and all those types of things. So this sounds like it's going to be fantastic, Lindsay.
Well, I look forward to, hanging out with you guys again, and also just hearing about some of the myths that
Yeah.
all you folks around the world have heard. So I'm definitely coming ready to hear kind of what myths pervade in the
Mm,
places where you're working, and what are some of the things that parents around the world are being told by lots of people, by health professionals, by sleep trainers, by their family, whoever it
sure.
is, and how we can kind of fight back against some of those misinformations with
Right.
some good information.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Well, thank you very much. It's going to be great to have you. And as Lindsay mentioned, she's can't wait to hear from all of you as well. So you can actually start by posting some questions below, and we'll take them to Lindsay on the day, and make sure that we, incorporate them into that time together. But please come. It's going to be a great opportunity on June 17th to come together, work together, and see what we can come up with. I think it's just so great that when we can all collaborate together. And as I mentioned, this will be recorded. So we've got a full day of presentations June 17th, and you'll be able to join us with all the other speakers. And if you can't make the event, listen to the recording and, of course, post those questions in those designated forums as well. Well, thank you so much to Lyndsey Hookway for being with us here today. It's been lovely having you.
Always lovely talking to you guys, especially you, Fiona.
Oh,
And
thank
yeah, I look
you.
forward to coming back.
That's awesome. And thank you to all of you, our viewers. Don't forget to check online at goldlearning.com for all the details of this upcoming event. Bye bye for now, everyone.
Take care.